To partner with this program or to place advertisements, please call 0706 936 3169. Also, we want to hear from you concerning the development of the Niger Delta on our social media platforms under Diary from the Delta. I am Ajuri Ngilale. Do enjoy the show. A region of the minority steeped in national history, where the lifeblood of the national economy attracts diverse peoples and interests from across the country and around the globe. It is here in Nigeria's bustling Niger Delta region that we observe and incisively diarize life and activity in this fast-expanding region facing peculiar human and socio-economic challenges. We assess local industry. We hear directly from the people affected by decisions, and we question the decision makers empowered to serve and protect them. I am Ajuri Ngilale, and it is my honor to present to you a diary from the Delta. Exclusively on AIT. These are very interesting times in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The politics of budget passage intersect with declining oil revenues to place a greater emphasis upon the need for enhanced internal revenue generation. Perhaps this is nowhere more true than in the nation's Niger Delta region, where declining revenues contend with an expansive public service. I am Ajuri Ngilale, and I examine the realities and prospects of internal revenue generation in the region in this entry in my diary from the Delta. Broad-based taxation has been historically de-emphasized and lightly regarded due to a combination of factors, including low public confidence in government performance and accountability, as well as high-level nonchalance on the part of administrators following decades of easy oil revenue inflows. In the modern context, Nigeria's federal economic structure has been weakened to its knees by the aftermath of yesterday's free-for-all. Recent revelations detailing how revenue-generating agencies of government, such as the Nigeria Customs Service and NIMASA, spent nearly 100% of the revenue generated within them, offer insight into the level of priority given to internal revenue generation and broad-based taxation by authorities in recent years. In 2014, a diagnostic study of tax administration in Nigeria revealed that more than 65% of taxable corporate entities, mostly from the non-oil sector, have failed to file tax returns with the Federal Inland Revenue Service for more than 2 years, and that 75% of all registered companies in the country have failed to register with the FIRS, a trend which experts say must be stopped if the Nigerian economy is to insulate itself from the crude volatility of oil and gas product values.
Yeah, you can have a system. The system is as good as what you put in there. That's what they say, garbage in, garbage out. But you have to have a strong political way to actually make the system work. And that you don't have shortage of it in Lagos. Now, two, you have to look at the psychology of the people who don't like to pay tax. People don't like to pay tax. And sometimes you have to understand They don't, because they don't see what they're paying the tax for. Nigeria, actually, only 4% of what taxable revenue are collected compared to, in fact, West Africa, 20% is the average. Africa, well over 20%. Most countries you expect 20 to 30%. So you've got a long mileage to go. The state can do tax planning. That's much more important. That you've now seen the pattern of revenue coming here. You ask the other team in the other local government, how come these people are delivering 200 million a month and you are delivering only 15 million? They wake up. You have the same base, tax base, and the same number, so they wake up. You can direct them, and you can plan effectively. And then you can see sectors that are giving you more money so that you can put more intensive, more support into the sector where you're getting more money. So you have a lot of information for planning purposes that will enable you drive your economic development strategy.
The current war on corruption is one step in the direction of building public confidence in government's will to generate internal revenue for proper application towards national development objectives. However, given the current state of Nigeria's economy, the role of the private sector is now emphasized in providing funding for capital-intensive infrastructure projects and social development programs, while its job-creating potential across sectors is tapped to create new frontiers for internal revenue generation.
Schools management, then school feeding, that is popular now in many states. It's the private sector you used to do those to get the cost down to the barest minimum. You can see the one of Kaduna, we're talking about peanuts, but it is private sector. If you want to do it at a government level, it will cost 10 times as much. Then you have even health, rural health. You have mobile clinics. The private sector will use mobile clinics, use youth corpers, and get around everybody to improve the health of the community. So there are many areas where they can make money. It's just that the political will is not sufficiently strong. If you look at the Vision 2020, it expected 25 trillion naira to be spent on infrastructure till the year 2020. Now, the allocation was that federal will bring 11 trillion, state will bring 9 trillion, and private sector will bring 15 trillion. Doesn't that show you that the investment is expected to come from private sector? But with the current financial situation, neither federal nor state government has the money. So it's still going to go back to the private sector. So, and development assistance and much of the development agencies are ever so keen to lend as long as private sector is involved, PPP, because it cuts down the planning cycle. It makes sure that it's done very, very efficiently and quickly. And then there's a strong desire to raise the revenue from it. So most of the highways, bridges, can be built in a PPP platform, and then they put toll gates to collect the money over 10 years. Or 15 years.
In the Niger Delta, the oil boom of the last half-decade afforded the region unique opportunities to diversify economically into life after oil. Reflecting federal trends, oil revenues created a false sense of economic security in the region to the extent that state executives expanded public services with comparatively few investments made in establishing new non-oil industries and critical infrastructure. For example, in River State, the state civil service salary bill exploded from 2.5 billion naira monthly in 2007 to over 9 billion naira monthly by 2015. Before the oil price fell suddenly in late 2014, oil revenue derivatives padded regional state government budgets, which drew the focus of administrators away from the need to develop internal revenue sources. For example, in 2013, at the height of the oil price boom, Akwa Ibom State implemented a budget of 470 billion naira based on its nation-leading 2013 federal allocation of 260 billion naira. Only 15.3 billion naira, or 3.25% of the budget, was sourced from internally generated revenue. The lack of savings and adequate investment in new industries has left the region struggling alongside much less endowed states.
I still cannot understand why that heavy concentration of oil and gas haven't got processing capacity. In Texas alone, this is one state in America, there are over 200 petrochemical industries in just one state. You can never have enough. As long as you have the feed, you can produce and then export the finished product, polyethylene, polypropylene, all those monomeric materials and some industrial chemicals. Then you look at Venezuela, which is in the same state like us. They have over 35 refineries, to the extent that they go into the whole of America and have their own petrol chain and supplying their petrol, refined petrol. Does anybody prevent the state governments from investing in petroleum refinery? Obasanjo gave 20 licenses to private refineries. None of them has taken off. And that's from the term of Obasanjo. Now the new president has awarded yet another 50, making it over 70. In how many of them are state governments involved in? Take only 20% and force the industry to be established in your region, and then you claim the employment, you claim all sorts of events, and then tax revenues, of course. You get a share of the tax revenues. But they've got to look into all that, even if it is for the purpose of catalyzing and influencing and facilitating such investment. Because investors, feel comfortable having state government around, because there are issues. For example, when land is involved, and they have villagers, and so the villagers are very, very activist in those areas. So state's intervention helps a lot. And I can tell you, if the refineries and petrochemicals are partly owned by the states, they wouldn't be busting all the oil pipes because the states will be directly on top of it. So all of those in that belt, have access to the sea, most of them. And One, of course, One is a big one on LNG. So they represent potential for the state to do some partnerships to attract investors and do something. And I know shipbuilding, you can also look at revenue generated, foreign currency generated. If you have shipbuilding yards there where services are done, all those hundreds and hundreds of ship that come can actually get servicing, and they pay in dollars. But you build special yard where they will they come in and then they get a service. But that's it. And then you train our people there, not send them abroad to be trained. You train them there. There are many such things. And once you come into that area, there is also inland container depot, which is to decongest the port. A little inland, you build inland container depot. The rail line will drop all the containers, and people will come and clear them. You could have container depot in Aba. Instead of congesting Port Harcourt, they use rail to move all the ones that are destined for Southeast. You can have container depot in Warri, so they move things for the South, and then you have another one in Abuja. So they just move goods out so that people will clear them inland.
To partner with this program or to place advertisements, please call 0706 936 3169. Also, we want to hear from you concerning the development of the Niger Delta on our social media platforms under Diary from the Delta. I am Ajuri Ngilale. Do enjoy the show. Nigeria is ranked 169th out of 189 world economies in the World Bank's 2016 Ease of Doing Business report. While infrastructure deficits in power and transportation play a major role, policy inconsistencies and cumbersome processes and procedures are more overwhelming considerations. The story nationally is reminiscent of the story regionally in the oil-rich South. The potentials for the Niger Delta are limitless, and for every problem there is a solution. However, aside from immediate socio-political and security concerns, one of the main challenges inhibiting the rapid inflow of foreign direct investment and non-oil private sector participation in the region is a corrupt and politicized bureaucracy and an overall difficult operating environment for business administration. The World Bank's most recent sub-national Ease of Doing Business report had ranked River State, with all of its locational advantages and industrial taxation possibilities, 32nd out of 37 in the ease of starting a business and 33rd out of 37 in property registration.
How can you delay people who want to build in your state and build in your state? You're delaying them, issuing them construction permits. The second one is the ease of registration of a title. Somebody wants to buy a property in your state, and then he can't get you to register the title. You should be, you should be looking for them because they pay money when they're registering the title. Because when they're registering the title, you assess the property and they pay duty. Then the other one is litigation. How long it takes to litigate against title, and this is crazy when you look at the number of days. Some of them take over 470 days to carry out a process, and you just ask yourself, what is going on? But it's not rocket science, and I have advised some states on this. What you need in the case of these 4 indicators, you require 1, to identify the name of the property, 2, 3, what does it cost? 50 naira is written down. The third column is how long does it take for you to get an answer? And it says 30 minutes. This is what I'm getting at. So you've got it as a commitment by government. If somebody phones and he has all that requirement and he has paid that money, he should get an answer within 30 minutes or no more than 1 day. Then you get another item, registration of title. What do you require? You mention all that is required. Original copy of the deed, this, that. You mention all of that. And then how much does it cost? You take that it will cost you 5,000 or 20,000 naira. Or what is your commitment and how long is it going to take you to do that? You say 3 days. Now, when you set these parameters across the range of activities involved in registration and that, it reduces the corruption, level of corruption. If I'm supposed to pay 5,000 naira for this exercise, it's unreasonable for you to ask me for 20,000 naira, 4 times what, bribe, or 4 times what it's going to cost. And then a commitment of 3 days means if I have paid that 5,000, done everything that you wanted, 3 days I will be on your door asking for it. And if you say, give me stories, I'm obliged to make complaints because you have failed on your duty. So you bring pressure on civil servants to work within certain timeline. And even if you contract out some element of that service, it's going to be delivered over a time frame.
In the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the massive growth of internally generated revenue by taxation in Lagos State stands alone as the foremost example of what is possible when sufficient political will meets development planning. In 2006, Lagos State generated a paltry 3.6 billion naira monthly in taxes. In 2014, Lagos generated an average of 23 billion naira monthly in taxes. This success story began with the kind of despair facing most Nigerian states today. In 2003, erstwhile Lagos State Governor Bola Tinubu was engaged in a cold war with former President Olusegun Obasanjo over the creation of new local government areas in Lagos State. President Obasanjo proceeded to withhold federal allocations owed to Lagos State for over 4 years until his successor paid the accrued total of more than 30 billion naira in 2007. In this 4-year period of cash crunch, Lagos State began to look inward for financial autonomy. In 2006, the Lagos State House of Assembly granted the State Board of Internal Revenue, LIRS, autonomy and self-accounting status. This enabled its new chairman, Babatunde Fowler, the freedom to sack non-performing civil servants and to replace them with qualified tax professionals. The previously confrontational approach of tax officials in the state was reoriented, polite, and professional. The new business model was based on private sector approaches. 37 LIRS tax stations were established in strategic locations throughout Lagos State. ICT was deployed to eliminate tax payment diversion by external tax consultants and bureaucrats through online self-assessment, direct payment, and e-tax payment certification. 376 companies were shut down for tax defaults in 8 years, and thousands of vigorous retrospective audits yielded billions in outstanding tax liability payments. The focus on process and diligent implementation is now what is required by states in the Niger Delta and the nation at large. At a time when state governments hire external tax consultants for tax collection, paying an average of 35% of total tax revenues out as consultative fees, the erstwhile LIRS chairman Babatunde Fowler had outlined processes which led to the turnaround.
In the US, in Europe and all that, you can actually do your own tax returns. You don't need a consultant to do it. And we found out that a lot of people who desired to pay taxes but thought that it was difficult to compute the correct amount of taxes, with the self-assessment, it's brought in convenience. It's eased the system, and we do have thousands of people every year that just fill the form and pay their taxes. Once you go to the bank, it shouldn't take more than 4 or 5 minutes, pay your money to the state government, then automatically that goes into the state account. And we have said it both in the media. We also have a policy which was approved by the governor that no civil servant, no public servant should receive funds on behalf of a taxpayer in the aim of paying it into the bank for that taxpayer. It's very easy to make the payments. The taxpayer will first of all get a teller or receipt from the bank, followed up by an official receipt by the Lagos State government, and that tells you for sure that your money has gone into the account of the Lagos State government. So the electronic system also gives you history of all your payments. Once payments have been made, any amount that you have paid to the Lagos State government, be it a charge, a tax, a levy, consent fees, you can print all that out at the touch of a button.
At the back end of the system, you have very powerful tools that do profiling. They profile an area and say this area is getting less revenue than this area. And then so you know where to direct your tax planning, where to focus. And even when you make a declaration, you can also have a profiling of that particular sector, because the system will do an averaging and say, well, this is what the typical business in your circumstance would have as their revenue. So the system can actually predict.
We have house guards, we have cooks at home, we have nannies, and people who have domestic jobs. And basically everyone who earns an income should pay a tax. So what we expect these individuals to do is to pay at least 1,000 naira per year to government, because based on their salary, that is what it would come to. But it will also give them the added advantage of having a tax card, which can serve as an ID. It will also let them realize that they are being considered, because these people are allowed to vote. So if they're allowed to vote, they should also be allowed to pay tax, and let them feel as part of what we call the Commonwealth.
It is said that there is a relationship between performance and investment. What would the Nigerian economy look like if every informal trader in the country invested 1,000 naira per year in tax payments? Can administrators build public confidence that taxes will be effectively utilized for development? It begins there. I am Ajuri Ngilale, signing off.